early pioneers who took his music and culture and turned it into hundreds of millions of dollars, establishing himself as a true power broker in the world of entertainment. Sean Puffy P. Diddy Combs has gone by many names and many nicknames, but now he has another title: federal criminal defendant. Diddy has been accused of engaging in sex trafficking and racketeering, charges that could keep him locked up for the rest of his life. The allegations are serious and include recording lewd acts, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, obstruction of justice, and other offenses. Prosecutors say he abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. Diddy has denied all the allegations and says those who accuse him are not telling the truth, including new reports of a witness coming forward alleging there are videos of celebrities being victimized by Diddy. Tonight, we take a closer look. But first, it's verdict night in the burn pile murder trial. It's a case about family dysfunction that turned into a murder mystery. Meet the Ferris family. Gary is the father, a prominent Atlanta attorney who made a whole lot of money. Melody is the mother, married to Gary for 38 years. The two adult boys are Scott and Chris, and the two adult girls are Amanda and Emily. The family owned a beautiful 10-acre farm estate in Cherokee County, Georgia. 3 of the children moved out of the home and started families of their own. One child, Scott, did not. He lived in an apartment on top of the barn on the family's property. And on July 5th, 2018, Scott says he found his father's body in a burn pile on the property. He immediately suspected his mother was responsible. Meanwhile, Melody has pointed a finger at Scott. Now all the evidence is in and the arguments have been made, and it's time for the jury to speak. Who shot Gary Ferris?
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Red tie verdict night on your front row seat to justice. An unusual Monday verdict, but they happen, folks. They absolutely do happen. And we're, of course, talking about the case in Georgia. Gary Ferris, lawyer, successful man, the victim in a murder mystery, but a murder mystery that really was looking at members of his own family. Members of his own family. A man who worked as a successful lawyer and provided for everyone was taken out by one of his so-called loved ones. Well, this family was on trial, the Ferris family, but they all weren't accused. Only one was accused, Melody, the mother. But everything, the drama, the dysfunction, everything about this family was put inside that courtroom and made very, very public. And that's because Gary was murdered. That's the nature of a murder trial. The jury's got to hear about it. They need to know the facts in order to come to some determination about what happened and who is responsible. And we know the way this thing played out, and the public was somewhat divided, not 50-50, but divided. A lot of people were looking at Scott, the son, saying they believed he was responsible. Well, prosecutors didn't think he was responsible. Investigators didn't think he was responsible. He was a witness for the state against his own mother, who he was pointing the finger at. But she was pointing the finger right back at him. So, the jury has spoken. We have a verdict tonight. Let's bring in Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who is outside the courthouse in Cherokee County, Georgia tonight. Matt, great to see you. It's been a long road to get to where we are right now. Huge verdict. What can you tell us?
Vinny, nice to see you. It was a huge verdict, and, you know, this is a murder that really ripped this community and the Ferris family apart, like you mentioned. But one or the other was going to get vindicated in this. You had the defendant, Melody Ferris, accused of killing her attorney husband for the millions of dollars that she was going to inherit, or it was going to vindicate, with this verdict, the son who was being accused by the defense team. Take a listen.
We, the jury, As to the count 5, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 4, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 3, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 2, find the defendant guilty. And we, the jury, as to count 1, find the defendant guilty.
Melody Ferris really not showing much emotion. I was seated in the gallery right behind Scott. Scott and Chris started wailing. They were trying to control themselves. Other family members were comforting them in the gallery. But Melody Ferris was very stone-faced during the reading of that verdict. That changed very quickly. She started to cover her mouth and her face after this really took effect on her. And she started to realize that each jury member came to this conclusion, and they were pulled by the judge. She took off those pearl earrings, and she got different kind of jewelry afterwards. She got those handcuffs slapped on her wrists, and then she was off to the Cherokee County Jail, where she got a new mugshot, Vinny.
This is what a moment, and what a moment for this family. And seeing the dual reactions, to me, speaks volumes. Obviously, I'm not inside any of their heads, but to see the emotion from the sons as now their father's dead and their mother's being hauled away with being the one responsible for it all. Wow. Wow. And interesting the way the verdict was delivered as well. Almost in reverse. We started with the least serious charges and moved all the way up, which made it even more dramatic for everyone, I think, inside that courtroom. But wow, what a day, what a night. I know a lot of viewers are torn on this one. I know some of the people at the courthouse kind of torn on this one. But at the end of the day, the jury heard every piece of evidence, was able to evaluate every witness, and came to their conclusion, but not without some struggle. This wasn't a fast, super fast verdict, and it was a jury that struggled to come to a unanimous verdict.
That's right. It was a jury of 6 men and 6 women. They spent quite a few days on this. It spanned over 4 days, but they had a lot to go over. Nearly 4 weeks of testimony, 44 witnesses, and 1,200 pieces of evidence. And remember, they had the playback of a couple of those pieces of evidence. And then on Friday, they asked for the letter of the law. Well, today, before lunch, they appeared to be deadlocked and weren't going to be able to reach a consensus. Take a listen.
We have a note that says that they are hung and do not feel like they will be able to come to a unanimous verdict. So my plan is just to bring them in and tell them that they're the best qualified jury that there is to hear this case, and to send them back out and tell them to continue deliberating.
Okay, so that kind of shocked everybody, because then it was just a short time later, Vinny, about an hour and a half later, we all get alerted. All parties make their way back to the courtroom because we have a verdict, and we weren't sure if this was going to be a unanimous verdict, or maybe they had it wrong and maybe they were going to say that they were deadlocked again, maybe sent back out, but it was a verdict on all 5 counts.
Any word from the jury tonight?
You know, they're going to be on opening statements tomorrow morning and give us a window into that room, but I have not personally spoken to any jury member.
And what other reaction did you notice at the courthouse today from all of this?
Right. So afterwards, you know, there was a press conference held. Ferris family members were in attendance of that. And it really took 6 years to get to this point in time, right? This crime happened in 2018. There were a lot of delays, COVID, an expert had died. There was a lot going on to get to this point. And that's the reason why even in the gallery we had members of the community. But there was this news conference. It was joint held with the DA's office and also members of the Ferris family. Let's take a listen.
Let us never forget the reason that we are all here today. In July 2018, a horrific murder occurred in our community. A man was shot and left on a burn pile, his body desecrated. The shocking facts and images of this case will forever remain with first responders, law enforcement officers, prosecutors, jurors, and all who have followed this case. Gary did not deserve to die in this manner. He was a loving brother, father, and grandfather, a respected attorney, and a beloved member of our community. He is deeply missed.
I'm John Ferris, and Gary was my brother, and his kids have asked me to make a statement for the family, and I'm honored to do so. Over 6 years ago, our family's lives were changed forever when we learned that Gary had been shot and left on a fire pit to be burned. While we had been anticipating this verdict for a long time and are pleased with the jury's decision, we struggle with mixed emotions. Melody has been a part of our lives for over 40 years. Gary's children have not only lost a loving father, but now they have lost their mother. However, with the work of this prosecution team and this jury, we can say that justice has been served today. With this verdict, we hope to have some closure to a terrible chapter in our lives. We also hope to honor Gary as we move forward and pick up the pieces of our fractured family. We are so grateful to the investigators and the prosecution team for the tireless hours that they have invested in the pursuit of justice for Gary. Megan, Jeffrey, and Detectives Hayes, Pope, and Kuykendall, and everybody else that was involved, we are forever indebted to you. The citizens of Cherokee County are indeed lucky to have these people in their service. We appreciate the jury members for devoting a month of their lives to help close this case. We also have an extensive network of family and friends that have provided their support and prayers throughout this ordeal, and we want to thank each of you for being there for us. Your support has been invaluable to us. The grief we feel for our beloved father, brother, and friend is insurmountable, but due to today's verdict, we can proceed in our efforts to celebrate Gary and all that he meant to us.
And that's what it's about. You know, Gary Ferris, he's missed by so many people, and they never really had any closure and maybe can begin that healing process, Vinny. John Ferris, I would talk to him each and every day, and his beautiful wife, Nancy, and he showed me that he was carrying with him during closing arguments and deliberations that letter that he was going to read. And he was just like, I'm probably going to get emotional, and I'm probably going to have to look down. And I'm like, it's just beautiful that you're going to be able to speak for the life lost here, your brother. But it was also pretty interesting to also note that it was Scott and Chris in the gallery today, and all the Ferris children testified. Some on other ends, but Amanda and Emily, I didn't see them here today.
I can't imagine what they're adults, but it's your parents. Your parents are always your parents. Mom and dad are always mom and dad. And mom shot and killed dad and threw him into a burn pile, and then trying to make some sense of all of it, and then mom blames you for it. Like, how do you come to terms with that? And there's grandchildren in this family as well. How do they handle all of this? I mean, it's a complete disaster. That was very avoidable and clearly, seemingly was motivated by nothing other than just plain old greed. Plain old greed, which is sad and tragic for this family. Matt Johnson doing a great job out there in Canton, Georgia. Way to bring in the verdict today and tonight. Great to see you, Matt. Thanks so much. All right, let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III. Also with us, criminal defense attorney Darnell Crosland, looking a little casual right now, and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. All right, Al, I want to start here, okay? Because this has been the reaction from a lot of folks. Why in our system of justice, when the jury comes back and says we can't reach a verdict, do we send them back in to reach a verdict? To me, it's very disingenuous because we tell them to, you know, don't compromise your beliefs. We say that out of one side of the mouth. And on the other side of the mouth, we say, come on, give us a verdict, which means someone's got to compromise their beliefs. And this wasn't after 5 minutes. This was after, you know, a few days and, I don't know, 12 hours, 13 hours of deliberations. Why do we do that?
Well, you know, it is very frustrating when you're on the defense side.
I think either side.
Even on the state side. On either side, when that happens, when you have a hung jury, okay, and then the judge gives these instructions that basically says, look, you know, you guys got to do it. You got to, you know, you got to pull through on this. You've been here for it. We're expecting something, and then you come back. The interesting thing on this one was that the verdict then was not that long after that instruction came from the jury, and that in and of itself would led me to believe that it's a compromise, basically. You know, it's like, oh, all right, what the heck?
Well, it's not a compromise. She's found guilty of everything from top to bottom. There's no compromise.
The compromise is that whoever was holding out said, you know what, that's fine, guilty. Let's go. Let's get out of here. I mean, it's really not fair in that respect. And I've never liked this. I've never enjoyed a situation when that you know, a bomb drop comes in where the judge just basically berates the jury to get some sort of a verdict,
right?
Because it has to be done.
Right.
It's not right, but it is. It's happens.
The law. It's the law. I mean, these cases have obviously been upheld through the years, but Darnell, to me,
every time
it's you know, it's where we're kind of like nudge, nudge, wink, wink with the law. By the way, Al's tie is not all the way up, but Darnell didn't even try. Like, Darnell didn't even try tonight. That's what he thinks about this verdict.
Al is not a litigator. Al's an office
there to tie the tie for him. You know, usually he's got the clip on. Today he tried to show these, you know, a big shot, but he can't tie it.
So Darnell, do you think there's a level of fairness to this? And I'm not talking about this case. I'm talking about every case across the board. It happened in Karen Reed as well, where the jury says we don't agree, and then we say, well, and, you know, don't compromise your beliefs, but get back in there and agree.
Yeah, so, you know, I have it in front of me. You know, it's known as the Chip Smith charge. And so the courts had some time ago decided with the jury's deadlock, and they report that they're deadlocked. Instead of accepting that, we give them this Chip Smith charge. It says, go back and do your darndest to come up with a verdict. It has to be unanimous. You all have to agree, and blah, blah, blah. To me, I think if I was the defense in this case, I wouldn't sleep at all, because it's like taking victory out of my hands by forcing them to go back. And when I pick a jury, I usually tell them, you know, if you're chosen for this jury and it's 4:30 on a Friday and everyone is going to the left and you're going to the right, can you hold your ground? Can we count on you to hold your position? And if they say no, that they're the type that would just be persuaded, you know, I exercise a challenge or I make a full course challenge. In this particular case, when we give this Chip Smith charge, we're telling them, hey, we want to go home on Friday. It's 4:30. I don't want to come back Monday. Go back there and give me a verdict. And I don't think it's right. I think it puts undue pressure on these people, and I think we should do away with it.
Yeah, Jennifer, and then you looked at Melody during the verdict. I don't think she was expecting this, and it was interesting. The foreperson went from count 5 up to count 1, but it seemed like because she heard hung in the morning, and then there was, you know, a couple hours later, all of a sudden they've got a verdict. I don't think she was expecting guilty on all 5.
Not at all. She probably thought that she was going to be free today. So it probably came as a real shock to her, especially after what happened this morning. She probably thought that, you know, jury's deadlocked. They're not going to be able to reach a verdict. You know, this is going to go my way. And then to hear the verdict, it's horrible. It is horrible to watch that. It really is.
Yeah, but, you know, the evidence, there was a lot of evidence there, folks. Those phone calls were not good. Those phone calls were, and you're talking about the burn pile on the 4th in the early a.m., and nobody finds them until the 5th. You got a problem. You got a problem.
Yep.
And Rusty did put that nail in your coffin to answer your question, Melody Ferris. Okay, Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about the family and the family dynamic and where they go from here. Plus, coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates the Delphi murder case, a true crime mystery that prosecutors say took 5 years to solve. Richard Allen has been charged with slashing the throats of 2 young girls who were just taking an innocent hike. How will the defense explain the defendant's 61 confessions? We investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan investigates tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
What happened that night?
Killed my wife. I don't remember none of that.
If you were me, would you believe you?
Interview with a Killer, Sunday, 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
This jury trial took place over the course of 18 days, beginning on October 7th and ending with closing arguments on October 30th. During the trial, the state called 36 witnesses and introduced over 1,200 pieces of evidence. After just over 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict of guilty on all charges. Under Georgia law, the crime of murder carries a minimum sentence of life in prison. Melody Ferris has now been remanded to custody, and Superior Court Judge David L. Cannon will schedule sentencing for a later date.
There's the DA talking about the big conviction of Melody Ferris for the murder of her husband of 38 years, Gary Ferris. Yeah, I get it. It wasn't a traditional 38 years of love, but they were married for 38 years with 4 children. And all 4 children were part of this trial. This was a family affair. Chris, Scott, and Emily testified, and they were there really supporting the state and pointing the finger at mom. Take a listen.
And they asked me, who would anybody ever benefit from your father being killed? And I was very frank. I said, well, yeah. I mean, my mom.
They discovered a bullet lodged in the rib bone.
At that point, did you suspect your mom?
Definitely.
I did receive confirmation later that my dad had been shot, and that was pretty much the sticking point for me. When I heard that, I thought, it just confirmed my beliefs.
Then there was Amanda, who was the 4th of the siblings, who didn't see it exactly the same way. Take a listen.
What did you notice about the change in your family dynamics?
After that had happened, I immediately had to take care of my mom. It was probably July 6th. All of my brothers and sister looked at me and said, all right, you take her. And so I immediately had her with me. She lived with us, I can't tell you how long, months. I had to help pay for house insurance and car insurance and power bills and things like that. So I was kind of having to take care of the situation.
You use the past tense when you're talking about your siblings. Why is that?
We don't talk anymore.
They don't talk to you?
Communication is a two-way street.
So when's the last time you talked to your siblings?
Had to be probably end of 2019.
Your relationship with your brothers and sisters has soured since all this happened?
Unfortunately.
And it upsets you because they're not taking up for your mom, right?
No, it upsets me because it shows how much that they love me. It has nothing to do with her. It has everything to do with I'm their sister, and they left me.
You feel like you've been abandoned?
Yes, I lost my whole family that day.
Absolutely brutal. But there's one place to point the finger. It's Melody. It has to be. She's the one who committed the murder. Think Tank still with me. Al Wunsch, Darnell Crosland, Jennifer Brandt. Darnell, I was thinking about this the whole time, and it turned out to be true, that the fact that the children are telling this jury my mother did it, 3 out of the 4. The 4th was like, I'm waiting to hear all the evidence. That gives the jury just like the green light to convict her. If the people closest to her believe that she did it, why wouldn't the jury?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And when you're looking to convince a jury, you're telling a jury listen, none of you know these people, and therefore you have to judge based on what you're hearing. And I once had a case where a little girl claimed that she was assaulted sexually by my client, and I played the videotape of the mother at the police station, and she said to the little girl, "You better not be lying to me." And I built a case around the fact that not even her mother believed her because she had made these stories up before. So in this case, by way of analogy, this entire family is telling this jury, it's my mother. And the one girl who was the one sibling who was on the fence, if I remember her correctly, she said, "I'm leaving it to you to decide and tell me what happened." So you had 3 that's saying it's my mother and 1 that's saying, "I'm not sure, you tell me." So that's really 4 to me. And so the jury, had no choice but to believe this family who knows this lady best.
Yeah, and also, Rusty thought she did it too, and that came out as well, Jennifer Brandt. I mean, there was no one coming in there saying, "Oh, there's no way Melody would ever do this. I would never even suspect her of it." Like, to me, that speaks so loudly inside the courtroom.
Yes, and especially with her own children. I mean, when you see children turn against a parent like that, you have to sort of believe them because, like we said, I mean, they know her best. They know the situation. They were living the situation with their mom and dad. They saw the dynamic. The brother said right away, it's mom who stood to benefit from this. It's mom who was the one that they all suspected right away. They looked to her right away that she was the one who did it. It wasn't even a question. So you kind of have to think, wow, would kids turn against their one remaining parent if it wasn't likely that she probably did it? And even Amanda, I mean, it's tragic what happened with her. She kind of was ousted from the family, was left to sort of take care of mom when this all happened. Brothers and sisters turned against her, and she said, I mean, honestly, it wasn't about mom, it's about they left me, I'm still their sister. So I hope that this family can repair the damage that's been done. I mean, now that they can put this case behind them, maybe they can reconcile because
the holidays are coming up. This is the time of year you put that stuff aside. I know it's tough and there's so much baggage in this family. All right, Al, I want to put this in front of you because everyone that was talking about reasonable doubt in this case, people that did not believe Melody did it, pointed towards one thing, which is how on earth did she move the body? Here's what the prosecutor said in the closing argument about that.
It wouldn't have been easy for anyone to move that body. Not Scott by himself, not Chris by himself. Anyone would have needed something. And you know what? It's okay if you all think different ways in which she moved his body. One of you could think she used the tractor. One of you could think she used the RTV. One of you could think she literally just got down and rolled him there. It was all downhill, you saw. One of you could think she tied him up like a deer to the back of the RTV and dragged him over there. But he ended up on that burn pile. And a ferry didn't put him there. A murder ferry didn't put him there. No one else. There is no evidence anyone else is on that property. And to think differently is to seek doubt.
This was a big issue for the defense, but the jury didn't buy it, Al.
No, they didn't buy it at all. But it is a big issue. I mean, there's the expression dead weight, and he's a large man.
Over 300 pounds. Over 300 pounds.
And she's not, a bodybuilder by
$120.
Right. So it's a very, very interesting question. It was a question that from the beginning was something that I was concerned about. I mean, how can you move that body? I mean, it's not easy to move dead weight. Just take a look at any of these mob movies where they try to bring a guy and get him into the trunk and this, that, the other thing. It's not easy.
It's
dead
a
weight
two-person
means
job.
exactly that. It's very difficult to do that. But you mentioned about the kids and 3 out of the 4 pointing the finger at mom, and still the jury was deadlocked. Okay, for a period of time, even with 3 of the 4.
And it could have been just one person. We don't know. We'll find out tomorrow morning on opening statements with Julie Grant. Good plug there, Darnell. So and Al and Jennifer, I want your input on this. Last week we talked about this, Darnell, and we know that there were two people that were having the finger pointed at them. And I asked you, who would you rather represent, Scott or Melody at trial? And here's what you said.
I just like the big fish, Vinny. I'm a winner. So, you know, I'm going to go with Melody. It sounds like there's one of these sons who thinks everything's his already, so he has a motive to want to off his father because he wants it quicker. He doesn't want to wait until the inheritance comes down.
So, Darnell, I have the defense coming in tomorrow night. I'm going to interview them. Is there anything from your perspective that you would have done a little differently than they did here? Or was it just the jury pool and the facts in Cherokee County, Georgia?
Yeah, I think that, you know, it's hard to look back and say that, you know, they would have done something different. I do know that if, in fact, they were looking at one of the sons as a possible a suspect, all you can do is hope that you can get the most dirt on that person and cross-examine that person even more stronger and try to find a motive. Motive typically for a dead person in this scenario is money. So if you can see that this guy stands to inherit money, he's the only one living at home. Everyone else went out on their own and got married and are doing the adult thing, but he's just waiting for that inheritance. Perhaps you just build that up more and then find something else to support that. And that shows that he would have more of a motive. And again, you're not even trying to convict him. You're just trying to raise reasonable doubt.
Raise enough doubt. All right, Jennifer Brandt, this should not count against his streak, should it? Because he picked Melody here. He didn't actually try the case. So it doesn't break Darnell's streak.
I disagree. I think it does break. Unfortunately, it breaks Darnell's streak. I mean, I hate to do that to Darnell. We're very close, but I do think he's done.
Okay.
He picked the wrong person. I mean, you know.
There we go. Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about Diddy. Diddy make a video of himself abusing celebrities. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about what Diddy had for his birthday meal behind bars.
He's ready. He's focused. He has been ready to defend this case since he first found out about this case. Nothing has changed from his perspective. I obviously would much prefer to fight this case with him out of jail, and we are going to try to bring that about through additional legal process. But wherever he is, his resolve is the same. He believes he's innocent. I believe he's innocent. And we're going to fight this case with all of our might until we don't have to fight anymore.
Okay, the Diddy case. There's been so much information just pouring out every day. You go on social media every day, it's something new. But I want you to take a look at this from CNN, a letter from Diddy's defense to the judge regarding some grand jury testimony by a man who allegedly has video of Diddy sexually assaulting celebrities, plural, celebrities. Take a look. These stories have spread rapidly through the media and created the impression that such videos exist, which is false, and that the government is actually crediting his sensational claims, which is profoundly prejudicial. And they want a huge gag order issued in this case. Now, the government, the prosecution, responded to that. Take a look. The victim gag motion should, like the bill of particulars, be denied as a premature request for the government to identify and restrict its witness list over 6 months before trial. Although styled as a request to, quote, prevent prospective witnesses and their lawyers from making extrajudicial statements that substantially interfere with Mr. Combs' right to a fair trial, the reality is that the victim gag motion is simply another way to get at the relief sought in the bill of particulars, premature disclosure of the government witnesses and a restriction of the government's ongoing investigation. Not only would the government's compilation of such a list at the outset of its case, and while it's continuing to investigate, be a fool's errand, but such relief would be unprecedented. So they're trying to get everyone to say nothing about the case and for the government to give the information about everyone who was going to testify in the Diddy case, which they say is still being investigated. But what about someone coming forward who allegedly has video of Diddy sexually assaulting celebrities, plural, Let's get back to our think tank, Al Wunsch, Darnell Crosland, and Jennifer Brandt. I guess the question here is, Jennifer, like how could this exist and it not be made public or no one knows about it at this point? Do you believe there's any credibility to this witness who is not an accuser and not anyone involved in a civil claim against Diddy, but just someone who says he's a witness, who says he has videos of Diddy sexually assaulting celebrities, plural?
I guess Vinny will believe it when we see it. Until we see it, it's all talk. We don't know really what he has. He's talking about things that he has, but no one's seen it. No one else is talking about it. No one else seems to know about it. So let's see what he's got. I mean, he's got to come forward and prove it. Now it's just a bunch of talk. I don't think we can really buy into it.
All right, Al Wunsch, how does this work if this does exist? Would the prosecution compel those celebrities to come forward to say in court what Diddy did to them? If this exists, it seems like if it's an assault, it's an assault. It's a crime. It would be part of this entire RICO case.
Right. Well, I think that if there is, they're certainly going to bring them in and they're going to question them. Whether or not they're going to subpoena them at the time of trial is another issue. You have a videotape, okay, that would need to be explained, and they're certainly going to bring them in and have them explain it. And there's no way that would not happen. And they would be compelled to come in, and some of these celebrities may, say, listen, this was consensual. I was totally into this. There was no problem with me. And I even knew I was being videotaped. I think what's mostly going to happen is they're going to say, look, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to be part of this. But I think the state will compel them to come in and explain what's going on that tape, if indeed there is a tape there.
Again, if there's a tape. There's a lot of allegations flying around, and not a ton have been verified. Darnell, do you think a celebrity would fight and try to not be a part of all of this? And could they do that successfully?
100%. A lot of people who are PR experts in this space have said that the worst thing that one could do for their career is to attach themselves to this case in any form. So even if you come out as a victim, that could look really bad for you and your career. And if these are males that are having sexual relationships with another male in this genre of hip hop and this, the bravado that goes along with that, your career is over. You can't even make another rap song. And there was a guy who came out who was the publicist for Kim Porter. And he's allegedly saying that he has tapes, etc. But that's still questionable. If you look online, you see I just filed my appearance in the Southern District on behalf of Joseph Sherman, who was Diddy's bodyguard. And so I'm in that case, and we have a status conference on November 22nd in that same court. So this case is very interesting, and I've been talking to the team for like weeks now. And so you got to stay tuned. But, I think that a lot of these false allegations are coming forward, and a lot of them are going to have to be vetted. And the court even made an order saying that if you claim that you have been sexually assaulted, you must put forward your name. He has a right to defend himself, and he has a right to know who's making these allegations. So I'll be in court on November 22nd on this matter.
We will follow up with you, obviously. Hey, by the way, today is on his 55th birthday, Diddy's children called him with a special message. Take a look at this video that was posted to his son, Justin Dior Combs' Instagram page earlier today.
Happy birthday to Daddy. Yay!
I love y'all so much.
We love you too.
Love you, Pastor. I can't wait to see y'all. Yeah. Can't wait to see y'all. And I just want to say I'm proud of y'all, especially the girls. I mean, all of y'all, but just for being strong. Thank y'all for being strong, and thank y'all for being by my side and supporting me. I love y'all. I got the best family in the world.
So his family obviously still supporting him. And let's talk about his birthday menu. I mean, this is quite a change for Diddy. New York Post confirmed this with the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Breakfast, cereal, fruit, and a breakfast cake. Lunch served at 11, pasta with marinara sauce, meatballs, and a garden salad. Dinner, 4 o'clock, chicken or tofu fried rice with black beans and carrots. The New York Post reported last month that Diddy's attorney says that the food's probably the roughest part of his jail stint. This is a huge change, Jennifer Brandt, from the life that he lived to the life that he's living now behind bars.
For sure. For sure, Vinny. I don't think he was eating these types of meals when he was free. He's probably drinking very expensive champagne and eating the best food. So surely is a change for him, especially on his birthday, to be in prison. But, you know, it sounds like a lot of food, actually.
It's more than I eat during the day. It's more than I eat.
Me too.
Al, I know you're chomping at the bit. 10 seconds.
Well, because the chicken is served with a nice raisin-based Chianti. But what I'm more interested in is the prison guest list and how many A-block inmates were at the party.
There you go. How many A-blockers? Love it. Al, Darnell, we're out of time, Darnell. I'm out of time. Al used up your time again. Al Wunsch, Darnell Crosland, Jennifer Brandt, thank you so much. When we come back, something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinny Politan investigates the Delphi murder case, a true crime mystery that prosecutors say took 5 years to solve. Richard Allen has been charged with slashing the throats of 2 young girls who were just taking an innocent hike. How will the defense explain the defendant's 61 confessions? We investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinny Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinny Politan investigates. Coming up next, only on Court TV. This week on Opening Statements.
Did a husband kill his wife by setting her on fire? We're getting you ready for the day's proceedings in the case against Craig Lewis.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board and the killer clown released, ladies and gentlemen. The killer clown released. Her name, Sheila Keene Warren. She dressed up like a clown, rang the doorbell, shot and killed Marlene Warren, the victim in this case, and then goes on to marry her widow, Michael Warren. Here's Dave Arenberg, the state attorney, who joined Julie Grant on Opening Statements to talk about the killer clown being released.
She's actually been in solitary confinement for 5.5 years. The first 5.5 years of this, she was in the solitary confinement in jail. And that was something her lawyers wanted because they didn't want her talking to other people, apparently. But that's no fun. And so that took a bite out of her. And then after that, she was sentenced to prison as a result of the settlement, and she is now getting out. So she'll have served a little bit over 7 years in incarceration. But mind you, she can't just go home the same person as she was before. She's going home as a convicted, admitted murderer. That is a stain that will never wash away. Is this the type of person you want to babysit your kids or to babysit your pets? You want nothing to do with her. So it's not like she can just go home and get her old life back. Plus, this was a settlement that the survivor of the victim in this case, Joseph, he agreed to because he knew that the alternative could be that she goes free entirely. I do think that they're going to try to have a normal life again, but you just can't go home again after you've admitted in open court that you murdered another person.
All right, killer clown is released, but we need your help right now with a missing child. Take a close look at your television screens. This is Ilana Caudill. Ilana is missing since October 23rd out of West Union, Ohio, 17 years old. If you see Ilana, pick up the phone, make the call, make a difference, 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Adams County Sheriff's Office in Ohio. That phone number's on your screen. Let's get Ilana to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinny Politan Investigates is next, the latest in the Delphi murder trial. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.